we hear the aftermath
Mm-hmm.
of maybe the effect of a mental illness of some sort, but how do we cope with the cause?
The biggest thing, and I guess you can talk to a lot of people that are involved with mental illness. That could be having it, you could be a worker for it, or it could be a family member and a caretaker. So it could all be somewhat different. But I think everybody would agree is about the stigma of mental illness. And I think that's one of the first things we have to get over with as a world, because we don't deal with something that we're ashamed of, and so many people are ashamed.
Why? Why do you
Well,
think?
you know, I think it's mostly because we don't know about it. The way people may act with mental illness, because see, mental illness will affect your ability to think clearly, your ability to make good decisions, and those are a couple of big things of life. If you're not making good decisions and thinking clearly, you're out there. And so there are so many people that have depression. I mean, we surely can go on that one forever. And there's two. If you have a situational depression, and everybody's there, and probably more today than we have in a long time. You're losing homes, you're losing marriages, you're losing families. That's depression. But you're going to know what to do, and you can come out of that with a lot of hard work and just doing some things. If you have a clinical depression, you don't know why you feel like you do. You just don't want to get up. You don't want to. And many times you can't. Not want to, but just can't. I work with all ages of people with mental illness or family members, and it's always amazed to me where they just themselves don't understand why they feel. Why did I get up this morning and not physically be able to go do what I did yesterday? Not go to school, not play my sports, not go to work, not have a relationship within my family. And so with that, people are ashamed of how one acts. And so the stigma, people are discriminated with mental illness. I would love to do an experiment sometime, but just ask people to either draw down or do something what they think a person with mental illness looks like. And I would almost bet they would probably draw a person that's homeless under the 9th Street Bridge. I think that's what they would draw, and that's just not true. My wife's been diagnosed with bipolar since about 84 or something, and a beautiful woman, smiles a lot sometimes. And she can't. And you would never know it. And that's the same situation. So then I think there's an embarrassment. It's really hard for us to go places if she doesn't know people, and all of a sudden she gets scared and confused, so they could see that as snobby. She's not talking to anybody, she's just sitting there. And so a lot of people just, that stigma is so important. And there's several things that create that, and one is the denial. A person's not going to stand up and say, yes, I have a mental illness. People would just not accept that. You can say anything else. Yeah, I have diabetes, I have cancer, I could have a brain tumor, but I can't be mentally ill. And it goes all ways to those with mental illness, the caretakers, the family, the lovers, of the people that just care about them. And so that stigma is just a really, really hold back. And the other thing is to the denial. I'm not sick. So many people will go in strict denial when they first get ill. And it's not funny, but I enjoy so much. So especially with an adult child, someone may have an adult child and we'll hook up and I'll get to meet with him and they'll say, I don't know why you're talking to me. My dad, he's the one that's sick, and he and my mom are both sick, and you're calling me, you better go see them. So, and then there's the parents sometimes are denying, well, no, my kid doesn't have a mental illness. He's just going through a phase. And we need to know those signs to know what is the phase. And that's tough. There's a person, an acquaintance that I knew, and he had lost his grandson to suicide. And I heard him talking to his friends about, well, there was no signs, there was nothing, it was a shock to the family. And he had lived in the area and then went down to, I believe, to Fresno State and stuff. And then he was telling them what happened. It's just all the signs, He went to school, was doing really good in high school, went to the state college, couldn't focus, couldn't understand, couldn't get grades, so he came home, just quit school. Well, that wasn't him. And we didn't know that. He got a credit card and overspent it. Would disappear for 3, 4, 5 days at a time. And all these things were so rare, and I thought, it just hurt me to hear him give the signs of mentally ill and using that in the term of there was nothing wrong. And so how do we get through that? Yeah.
You were mentioning the other day the percentage of people in a community or Stanislaus County specifically that do suffer from mental illness. What is that percentage?
It's 25%. And that is throughout our country. In our county definitely is at 24%. So that's 1 in 4. 1 in 4 people are dealing with a mental illness. And, you know, if anybody, and I'm sure everybody has woke up and just had a rough day. Just couldn't get it going. Can you imagine living like that, though? I mean, and not have, because work was going to overload you today.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose you didn't have that and you felt like that.
Mm-hmm.
And tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrows. And you knew tomorrow you were going to feel like that. So 25% of our, and that's with diagnosed mental illness. There's a whole bunch of people out there who would never go to a doctor to get diagnosed. You know? And I've
So
worked-
24% is the percentage that we know of.
That's right.
Okay.
That are you know, diagnosed mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and mental illness is a wide variety of illnesses too. It's not just depression. It's not just bipolar, schizophrenia alone. There are 12 types of schizophrenia.
Really?
Yeah. Well, it's, you know, and like if someone says I have cancer, I think that's be one of your first questions, like what
kind?
cancer?
Yeah.
You know.
Mhm.
And we don't ask that about schizophrenia. There's paranoid schizophrenia. There's just a lot of different types. Anxiety attacks. And I don't mean just getting a little bit nervous, but have that, you know, that OCD. A lot of people are dealing with that. And it can be dangerous if you're doing things that you just have no control.
I have a question concerning media, movie industry, politics, news, that sort of thing. A lot of times Hollywood will make a movie about something, and it actually either helps or hinders the awareness of it. And one way or the other, it puts a stigma on it. I know back in, I think, 1960 something, 62, 63.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
Well, that too. Yeah, we can
Yes.
talk about that in a moment. That's actually one of my favorite movies. But I was talking about Psycho specifically,
okay.
you know, with the personality disorders of Norman Bates. And of course, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Do you think that the news media and or Hollywood or, you know, the court of public opinion, do you think that it is stigmatizing this in a way that is causing more harm than good, or do you think that it's kind of changing over the last 3 or 4 decades?
I think over the last few years it has changed. I think when anybody has gone ballistic and creates a whatever shooting or rampage, whatever they do, then the first thing they say, well, he was mentally ill. Well, really? I mean, that's almost a give me. People aren't doing things like that are just in their minds focusing in a total capacity that it can. And so therefore, when they start focusing on that so much, and you know, the other thing, people who have a mental illness and are violent, they're violent before they have a mental illness. So there's a lot of violent people in this world that aren't mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can't blame the mental illness on that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, so they were naturally a violent person. A lot of people do not develop the mental illness until they're 25s, because that's about the time the brain fully develops. So now that your brain is fully developed, you can see that you have problems. I don't know, if you had a child, and see, but today's great too with x-rays and stuff or MRIs, that didn't walk. You wouldn't know that until they were a year old. I would say that when kids start walking, I don't remember.
9 months to
My
a year.
kids are old, so they've been walking for a long time. I'm working on my great-grandkids walking around now. So, and so same thing. You may not know a person has mental illness until they're in their 20s and something. A lot of students who do go away to college, it's a culture shock, and now the brain cannot handle it. It's not so much they can't, but the brain just isn't functioning to the point that it needs to do that.
Well, that kind of brings up another question that I have. On an MRI, can you physically see mental illness within the brain?
That's exciting for me because there's a Dr. Amen who does that. He does brain x-rays, whatever that's called. And through NAMI...
Like a PET scan, is that what it's called?
Yeah, I believe, but through NAMI, I'm affiliated with NAMI. NAMI is the National Alliance on Mentally Ill, and another just worldwide great program. And it's really ran by people who are associated, meaning that they have it or their family member does it. So it's just not a bunch of doctors or therapists or whatever out there. It's family members and people with mental illness that run this organization. And I believe he works with them. He's going to speak at our convention in San Francisco, this next convention we have. And it's amazing. You can see the color of the red, the blue, and the things over here. And if somebody's in a schizophrenic mode, it's scary to look at. Absolutely, you see a black little thing in the middle.
Really?
Yeah. But that's one of those things that are just now developing. I don't know that people can get those scans, or are they all tested yet, or whatever. And people can come in and out of their moods.
Because when I was young, I was told that mental illness had to do with the mind, which is different than the brain.
Yes.
So they can actually see it on the scan.
Yes.
So it has
Yes.
to do with the brain.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And the part of the brain it affects is, I believe, is the right front lobe for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where all the sensitive of your brain is, the thinking clearly, being able to relate to others, to make good decisions. And that part's getting affected.
I say when I was young because when I was in grade school, they actually talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, earlier in the show we were talking about the arts and so on not being taught as much. Mental illness was actually taught at my grade school. And it was talked about not in the brain part, but the mind, when somebody's mind
That's
snaps
right. Yes.
or something
Right.
like that.
Right.
And you were talking about the schizophrenic episode, and the brain actually changes. That's very interesting.
And it's exciting. And it's probably such a new illness that's coming to the surface because people are having it. NAMI was started, I'm going to guess here, I hope I don't get in trouble, I think like in the early 60s. And at that point, it was the mother's fault in a conversation. And many mothers that I've talked to at conventions and meeting them, it's heartbreaking. They wouldn't let the mothers visit their kids in the hospital. They would take them from
Do
them.
we have Freud to thank for that?
I don't know. And it's so changing now. I belong to several websites that try to keep up, and it's a daily thing. The medications, the things they find, the
that's the other
movements
thing.
are so great.
The doctor sees the patient for, a minuscule amount of time. It is the family and the caregivers, and for those fortunate enough, the ongoing nurse who stays with that patient or that loved one. How do they cope with this situation? Because they may not be mentally ill, but they're taking care of somebody who is. What is the relief or respite for them?
Yeah, and in many cases there's not, because you're taking care of a patient who just, you never know what tomorrow is. You just don't know. And like I said, and anything I surely say, so in case you get phone calls or something about my wife, is something she discusses with me, says, tell them this and tell them that. So it's not like it's, and she does some speaking herself. And she has bipolar and extreme. And I've seen her several, I'll say weeks, where I was like just not out of bed, wouldn't even eat, but the brain wouldn't have let her. It wasn't a matter, she was just not doing it. And so when you live with that, one of the things I tell them when I do seminars and stuff is say, in my opinion, that mental illness, the caretaker actually inherits the illness. Because if you have a loved one that you're helping and taking care of, they're forgetful, they're afraid, they don't know what's going on, they're tired, they're exhausted, they're depressed. Well, if you're a caretaker, you're tired, you're afraid, you're scared, you don't know what's going on, you don't know where to go for help or what to do, and you're depressed. And so there's that whole connection. And it was so great what you said, because that's what NAMI is. It is the people that take care of them, that help, that has got together and done this. NAMIs are county-wide affiliates, and Stanislaus County is just great. People have told me they have moved to this county because of their loved one with mental illness, because they get help. So if there is help out there, we just have to know where to find it, and don't think you're the only one that you're going through it.
Speaking of which, do you have your poster or your Yes.
Yes,
There
I
we
do.
go. I'll hold that up for
Okay.
you, okay? Because you have a ministry
Yes, I do.
that is kind of like an outreach ministry for people, I think on an ongoing basis, but really in a crisis situation, they can call you
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
And I'm going to have you, okay, good, they focused in on it. So let me see if I can hold this steady so they can get that. Okay.
Yeah.
So go ahead and tell us a little bit about that, where people can obviously call this phone number if they need to talk to somebody. But you specifically, what do you do when they call?
I'll tell a story if I can get through it.
Okay. We'll keep the camera on the paper here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because it's such a reason why I do it. There's this a friend of mine, and I've known her for years, and I knew her son had a mental illness. And he was in his teens probably by the time I got to know her and stuff. And so he had a pretty young case of it, and he was in and out of it. And once I got in my ministry, she said, "Oh, talk to my son," but she just couldn't get him to me. Another one, what do I want to go see him for? And my grandson came out to visit me from Ohio. He was was he 17, 18 years old? And he was a skater, and this other kid was a skater. Long story, just go on. And so this young man just continued, and he was so hard. He had diabetes. I've been to the hospital with him when he was in a coma because he was like 500 count. Just a hard life because he just couldn't get out of it. His mother, bless her heart, she just worked, did everything she could to help him, and it just, well, he had a heart attack, and it was about 2 years ago. And he was at the county fair down in Merced or something, and he called from a booth and said he was having a heart attack, and he died that night. And his mother told me, she says, "I knew I would never have him long." She has 4 boys. She says, "I just knew I wouldn't. But," she says, "because of you, I had him longer." And you know what? They can line up all day long if there's something that I could be that great in helping somebody. But it's to me, for me, when I work with them, it's more of a caring. I'm surely not going to heal them. I'm not a psychiatrist. I have an associate degree in Christian counseling for mental illness. But people can call me anytime and I'll answer if I'm awake.
Well, it's interesting that you were talking about the mother calling you and telling you that. It's really amazing the difference that one person can make, not just in that individual's life, but the lives that one life touches.
Mm-hmm.
So what you did for that one person actually touched the lives of that entire family.
Yes.
So I'm very pleased to know that you have started this ministry to help out not just individuals, but families as well.
Yeah, and I do groups. It depends on the groups and the timing and my other schedules. If I'm playing Shakespeare, I don't know. That's not true. I would walk out of the play. I really would.
I know this is 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
I know.
And yeah, I mean, I don't solicit my work, and I probably have about 22 people that I work with on at least a monthly basis, and most of them are weeklies that they can call. We meet, we talk.
Well, you're putting your phone number out there for the whole world now.
can.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you'll get phone calls from Tallahassee or anything, but the people here in Stanislaus County, you said that you don't solicit your work. How have they gotten in touch with you up until now?
A lot of it's through NAMI.
Yeah,
I
go
teach
ahead,
classes
NAMI
for
this
NAMI. NAMI has,
What is this here?
um,
I'm gonna go
these
ahead.
are programs
NAMI.
here.
Mhm.
Yeah, let me, this one, NAMI, here's many of the programs that NAMI has.
Mhm.
Again, NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And in fact, one of them that I think is a great one, and I took the classes, and it's the provider class. And the provider class is just exactly the question you were asking. How do these educated people through the schooling of this get into that? And that's what we do through NAMI, is that people listen to me. I know my husband, my wife, my son, my daughter, my best friend.
Mhm.
So when he comes and talks to you, you only know for the 20 minutes you know him. No, that's not it. And so the provider class is for people who are involved with mental illness in any way. I did not teach a class where there was a psychiatrist in the class, but I know that there's psychiatrists that actually take that class. It's a credited class. If there's a nurse trying to get a degree, she or he can get credits for taking the class. But it's the family members knowing and seeing. And that's something that's one of the biggest things, in my opinion, because now they're listening to us.
Mhm.
We live with it 24 hours,
Right.
and we know what we see. Don't necessarily know what, who, where, when, and why, but we know habits. We know the changing of lives. We know they're lying to you and saying everything's fine. My medications, I've taken them. You haven't taken them in a week, so. And that's another issue is the medications, because there's so many side effects that people with mental illness don't want to take them.
Right.
My wife for years, whenever she took medication, bless her little picking heart, made sure it wasn't a weight gain one. Because she says, I can't take these pills and just keep getting larger, larger, and larger.
And sometimes the antidepressants specifically encourage weight gain.
Yes.
Even though the eating doesn't increase.
No, the metabolism changes. Yeah.
I see a website here.
Yeah, this is our website. It's for this is for the NAMI Stanislaus. I don't know if it'll be big enough, but it's www.namistanislaus.org, and that's NAMISTANISLAUS.org. And I know you've given me the opportunity to come back more than once, and I think next time we're here, we'll really get all the information. This is NAMI has meetings, they have groups in Turlock. The family-to-family class is probably the absolutely best one, and that is for family members. And I've been teaching that for, 12 years or so.
Wow.
And that's where a lot of people say, Gary, you taught the class back in 2008. I was in your class. Do you remember me? And then my husband, wife, daughter, son, whatever, and also through the restaurant. It is absolutely amazing how many people come into that restaurant and will look for help. My partner, I have to give her some information every once in a while because they'll come in desperately and I'm not there. And she'll pray with them and has some knowledge of mental illness and can calm them down or got some numbers or stuff. So some of the servers also do. So that way when they come in there, we can help them.
It truly is a country kitchen.
Yes, it is. It really is. It is.
You're going to be coming back on August 5th to give us some more information. NAMI also has fundraisers, and I have to apologize. I forgot to bring my NAMI bear because Betty Sesser,
that's right,
one of my dear friends, makes NAMI bears. And the one that she gave me recently is a little tiny purple one about this big, and I'll be sure to bring that on August 5th. And she makes all different sizes as a fundraiser for NAMI. If somebody would like to get involved with helping the program, can they go to that website, or is there a phone number that they can call?
And there's a phone number. NAMI's office is down on 9th Street in the Jan Lind Center.
Where is that?
9th Street at the Jan Lind Center.
Got it. I know exactly where it is.
I believe it's between Caldwell and Tully.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it would be north of downtown.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
all right.
And it's a really new center. Telecare is also in that center, and Telecare is the county mental health facilities that people can go in there that don't have medical and that do need help.
Okay.
And
give us that phone number.
The phone number is area code 209-558-4555.
And it's different than the one that's on the screen right now, because the one that's on the screen is your phone number.
That's my phone number.
And this is for the Ministry of SHEM. Tell us a little bit about SHEM and that phone number. Go ahead and
the Ministry of SHEM was just a ministry that I decided to get on to. But another pastor and I were going through and look at some biblical verses that we can use and pray with people and help them get out of things. And we got to where SHEM, where Noah was drinking and was drunk, and his brother comes out laughing and saying, Noah's drunk. And SHEM says, and walks in backwards and covers his dad. And I thought, wow, he was a caretaker back then. And so with that, SHEM is it's a ministry for behavioral health. That's spiritual health, emotional, and mental.
They are all tied together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you very much for joining me this evening and bringing this information to the viewers. And I appreciate you coming back on August 5th. Meanwhile, to recap what we were talking about in the beginning, we have Geary Oreglia, who will be coming back on August 5th for the mental health education, as well as August 24th, the Salida Town and Country Festival. Is it festival or fair?
Festival.
Sure. Okay. And Shakespeare in the Park. Tell us where we can find all of that, which would be at the Salida Country Kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, there's my number. You can call me for that stuff.
That's right.
Too.
Okay,
So
phone
we
number.
can use
Go ahead
that.
and give us your phone number.
I'm in downtown Salida. We have a little country kitchen there, and it's called Salida Country Kitchen. And it is just that. Everything is happening, usually happens through the kitchen.
Good.
And so you come down there and find out what is happening downtown Salida. We have it put a Chamber of Commerce together. So Salida has its own Chamber of Commerce with a website. So I'm sure you can go to Salida Chamber of Commerce website and find out some information too.
That sounds good. Thanks,
All right.
Gary.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you.